Hello everybody, I'm here today with a review of one of the movies I've been recommended the most. Some of you really wanted to hear me talk about Phantom of the Paradise, so here you go! Phantom of the Paradise is a 1974 rock opera written and directed by Brian De Palma with music and lyrics by Paul Williams. William Finley stars as Winslow Leach, a pleasant, unassuming composer whose Faust cantata is stolen by Swan, a famous music producer, played by Paul Williams. When Winslow tries to confront Swan, he winds up thrown in jail. He breaks out and comes looking for revenge, but instead ends up making a bargain with Swan, agreeing to rewrite his cantata for Phoenix, played by Jessica Harper, the aspiring singer he loves. But Swan is not to be trusted. As a Phantom of the Opera fan, I've heard a lot about this movie over the years. I saw a few reviews of it back when I used to obsessively check out everything Phantom-related under the sun. Those reviews were quite thorough, enough to make it feel like I'd seen the whole thing. But I never sat down and officially watched the movie, partly because of that, and partly because I felt that while it had some creative and intriguing elements, it didn't seem like my cup of tea. Several years have gone by, enough time for me to forget most of what I saw in those old reviews and to approach the movie with a relatively fresh eye. And what did I think of it? Well, I think it has some creative and intriguing elements, but it isn't quite my cup of tea. There's been some, not much, debate over the years about whether or not this qualifies as a Phantom of the Opera adaptation. I say, sure it does. It doesn't follow Gaston Leroux's novel to a T, but none of them do. Like in the 1943 and 1962 versions, the Phantom starts out a meek, mild-mannered composer for whom everything goes south when his music is stolen. He freaks out, gets his face fried, and disappears into the river. Presumed dead, he then goes seeking vengeance on the greedy producer, the real bad guy, while furthering the interests of the innocent girl who is the only one who can sing his music. This interpretation, of course, puts its own unique spin on things. Winslow has all his teeth pulled out during his incarceration, so there's that. Afterward, when he goes tearing through Swan's studio, his head gets caught in a record press. The visceral result is one of the better deformities in the fandom, in that it's pretty nasty and not just mildly disturbing. De Palma teases us with it a few times, you have to be quick to catch it, but we don't get a good look until the very end. And then it's like, ugh! The costume comes from Swan's own backstage wardrobe storage. Winslow sneaks in and snags the bird-like mask, lots of bird imagery here by the way, and the black leather getup. It does remind me of something my goth friends might have worn in the early 2000s, with all the leather, the extraneous buckles, the excessive eyeliner, and the black lipstick. It's a striking look. Becoming the Phantom makes Winslow bolder, but he's still got his humanity and vulnerability, which keeps you on his side. He's got a great maniacal and slightly mechanical laugh, though, and overall, he's an impressive figure. A bit campy, but memorable. It helps that Finley was so tall and lanky, and it adds a new dimension that Winslow's voice was also damaged in the record press, and Swan is the one who restores his ability to speak and sing.
Phoenix.
Try it again.
Phoenix.
And again.
Phoenix.
Brian De Palma's direction is very visual and full of variety. It keeps the story moving, and no two scenes are filmed and edited exactly the same. He uses wipes, montages, POV shots, effects that make certain sequences feel like music videos, which is appropriate in a film about the music industry. Actors occasionally look right into the camera, and there's one scene that uses a split screen to show an event from separate angles. The Phantom places a bomb in a prop car while the band rehearses a number, and the scene plays out with the ticking of the bomb syncing perfectly with the beat. Phantom of the Paradise is full of cinematic and musical throwbacks to the past. There are nods to silent cinema in the score and in the bit where the action is comically sped up, also in the set design for Beef's final performance, which is like a Caligari-Frankenstein combo. The story advances via spinning newspaper headlines, a la the 1930s, and the film opens like a Twilight Zone episode with Rod Serling introducing Swan. And that really is Rod Serling. Each featured band, containing the same 3 members of Paul Williams' own group at his suggestion, goes through the decades. The Juicy Fruits song Goodbye Eddie Goodbye satirizes the teenage tragedy songs of the late 50s and early 60s, and includes some foreshadowing in the lyrics. The Beach Bums openly mimic the Beach Boys, and the Undeads represent the heavier, edgier, more theatrical performance style on the rise in the 70s. That concert scene with Beef and Company was so dark and bombastic that I found myself thinking, this was made in 1974? I like oldies, but I guess I generally prefer lighter music from the 70s, so I tend to forget that hard rock and heavy metal, which actually had their roots in the 50s and 60s, were taking off in the 70s. Oh, and I better mention this, or else I'll have people in the comments saying, did you know? The name of Swan's label was originally Swan Song Enterprises, but that year Led Zeppelin launched its Swan Song Records, so to avoid a legal conflict they changed to Death Records, with the dead crow symbol. It was a very late-stage modification, though. They superimposed the new label where they could, but there are still remnants of the original logo in many shots. Like in the 1989 Phantom with Robert Englund, Faust isn't merely an opera, or in this case a cantata, that's being performed. The story of a man who sells his soul to the devil is one that the characters are actively participating in. Phantom of the Paradise is a take on the Phantom of the Opera, but it's also a retelling of Faust, with a dash of The Picture of Dorian Gray. And if you want to go that far, a pinch of Valley of the Dolls. It touches on a lot of heavy themes: the ugly side of fame, the obsessive pursuit of youth, the caprice of celebrities, the caprice of the fans, the casting couch, that's a major topic. The talent scouts at Death Records are hiring bodies, not voices, and they won't even listen to Phoenix sing if she's unwilling to play along. Desensitization to violence is another prominent theme. We see an audience so high they can't even tell when someone's been killed mid-performance. They figure it's just part of the crazy show. And the movie's ending is sickening, the way the crowd continues cheering and dancing with dead bodies on the stage. It's a really disturbing statement about society, or at least a society that's hooked on drugs and sensationalism. As a whole, the movie handles the pursuit of fame and the sleazy, manipulative inner workings of the music industry with jaded cynicism. And I guess that's a reason why it's not quite my cup of tea. I don't pursue movies that have those themes, and I find the final act depressing and repulsive. But believe it or not, this movie is also a comedy. There's some slapstick and witty lines, several of them delivered cheekily by Paul Williams, who I imagine was tickled to play this exaggerated, villainous parody of himself. And then there's Beef, played by Garrett Graham, the rock star Swan brings in to replace Phoenix without Winslow's knowledge. Beef's every moment on screen is deliciously campy. He's one of the best Carlottas.
My music is for Phoenix. Only she can sing it. Anyone else that tries, dies.
As for the music, I was already familiar with quite a bit of it. I like several of the songs, particularly the ballads. What's distinctive about the music is that the songs are purposely written in relation to the story. The solos apply to the people who sing them, either descriptively or prophetically. They're not just filler pop numbers. The soundtrack makes for pretty good listening on its own. The exception, I would say, is Life at Last, sung by Ray Kennedy as Beef's singing voice, since it concludes with the character's dying shrieks, which I don't find enjoyable to listen to. This was Jessica Harper's feature film debut, and her aspiring starlet is an endearing character who has the ability to calm a frenzied crowd with a soulful ballad. Old Souls sounds like something Karen Carpenter would have sung, and that's not outside the realm of possibility. She sang a number of songs penned by Williams. Phoenix starts out pure and innocent, but unlike the traditional Christine Daae prototype, she's got some sass, and she's ambitious, and through the course of the story she keeps lowering her standards as fame gets within reach. I do find aspects of Phoenix's character arc later on disappointing, but it goes along with the film's pessimistic mood and the idea that sooner or later everybody succumbs. Besides, it's a Phantom movie. It's not like I expected a happy ending. Phantom of the Paradise was not a big hit when it came out in 1974, except bizarrely in Winnipeg, Manitoba. But over time, it's grown in popularity, and it occasionally gets a theatrical re-release, sometimes paired with 1975's Rocky Horror Picture Show for a rock opera, comedy, horror, cult favorite double feature. Those are my thoughts on Phantom of the Paradise. I think it's got some good stuff. The direction, editing, style, artistic choices are really something, and I like quite a bit of the music. When it comes to nostalgic, Faust-based comedy horror musicals, I do like Little Shop of Horrors better. It's also dark, but the thematic content isn't as disturbing. I'm sure that thematic content is what some people like about Phantom of the Paradise and what they feel gives it a leg up over some other musicals. And it does help it resonate even today. But it's disquieting and distasteful, and typically, I don't go looking for that. That's it! I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think of this movie if you've seen it in the comments below, and I'll be back soon with another review. Thanks for watching!